One of my favorite places to go, Royal Oak, which I will say, though, during the pandemic, I haven't been there quite as often. I love to go to the farmers market there on the weekend. But the supplies have been low right now because of the whole pandemic. It's just been a little bit of a weird, crazy time, but the work does not stop. I was really happy to see a few weeks ago when I went there, it looks like the police department has moved into their new facilities. I'm telling you what, anyone who had to ever go into the old Royal Oak Police Department, it was a dive. With us now, let's bring in the Chief of Police, Corrigan O'Donohue, for the fine city of Royal Oak. Thank you for being with us.
Glad to be here.
You guys deserved a new police department. When did you move in?
We moved in about in mid-February. So we've been in there, about a month and a half now.
So with that move, what was moving like during the middle of a pandemic?
It was a challenge. We had that big snowfall, and we really got in like 1 week before the big snowfall. So that was, one thing that worked out for us. But we've been in the old building since 1964, and that's a lot of years of building up stuff. And we had to go through it all, figure out what needed to be moved, what we could get rid of, and it was really, the move itself it was actually kind of fun. All the guys, the men and women of the Royal Police Department, they all pitched in. It was, kind of like a moving day at your house, I guess. It was kind of a fun vibe when we moved.
So, but it is a little bit of a pain in the butt. I worked with the ATF for a few years. Our Chicago office changed locations, and I got to help out just a little bit, but I was very happy that I wasn't their main PIO, because I got to dash back to Detroit and be like, hey, that's up to you to move all those boxes and all that paper. It's amazing what you collect. So what is the process like when you guys move from one location to the other? Because, when it comes to a law enforcement agency, there is also, a chain that has to be followed when it comes to evidence.
100%. And one of our biggest challenges in the old station was the evidence and property room. It was, think about, we've been collecting evidence since, like I said, 1964. So although we had some movers help us out, we couldn't have movers help us out with any of our evidence or that kind of property. So we had officers show up dressed to move, and then we had to count for every piece of evidence as it went from one building to the next. And our property officers, we have 2 part-time property officers. They did a fantastic job of organizing it, we were able to get it done in one day, get everything moved. They had a great plan, and it worked great.
So, Chief, I don't know if you guys had to go through this, but when we were moving, the movers had to go through a background check because it's law enforcement sensitive, even though they weren't, exposed directly to some of the information, but they couldn't have felonies. So we had to switch moving companies quite often, trying to find one with employees without felonies.
Well, we were lucky in the fact that we're not really moving furniture. So our new building has all new furniture. All the sensitive files and things like that, the officers move themselves. So the movers themselves didn't have to go to quite that level of screening, but they were supervised the entire time by law enforcement. So, the moving company was great. They did a great job, and they got us moved. The things they moved, but really most of the stuff was moved by just police officers, detectives, and the civilian personnel within the department.
So it's good to see that this has finally happened, but I will say it seems like this has been talked about for the past 20 years or so, but now technology is so vital to law enforcement. So when you're moving locations, how much does that play into the design and the importance of what you're doing to help you assist in the job that you need to do, which is ultimately keep the people of Royal Oak safe?
Well, that's a great question. When we were designing, first had the idea of moving forward to this new building. I've been working on this for over 6 years, and showing how our current building was built at a time when the only technology was a telephone. The only the dispatch was like a radio system and a telephone, and that was it. And we kind of had some fun with it with some town hall meetings where we found old photos of, from the 50s, 60s, and 70s of how law enforcement was done. And it's quite different now. We have one officer whose grandfather was in some of those photos. So that, we kind of had some fun with that. But the new building has a lot of great technology in it. The good thing is you don't have to pick up and carry technology. A lot of it moves for you. So but our old building was such a challenge, and this new building, every aspect of the building is purposeful in the design. And I think it's important to point out, while we were designing the building with the architects, we developed a system so everybody within the department got a say and got input in the building. So as the building would kind of take shape, we had every officer review the plans on a weekly basis, and then they'd have to put comments. So everyone really, the people who used the building really got a say in how it was developed. So it's an extremely efficient building. I like to say it's a beautiful building that's designed for a police officer to spend the least amount of time in it, because they're able to be on the road. They're not tied up with station details or things that slowed them down from getting out on the road and doing their job.
And that's good to know, because it really is those little things, the nuances that the people working the job each and every day know more so than anyone else. The good thing that's going on there in your city of Royal Oak, crime is down 20% throughout the pandemic. What do you contribute that to?
Well, this is, like for everybody, this is a year like no one's experienced before. And, we've seen in Royal Oak, really for the last 10 years, reductions in crime almost every single year, pretty substantial reductions. This last year, though, it's a little bit different. Restaurants were closed, people weren't going to work, people weren't having parties. The things that might trigger some sort of, I guess maybe a negative experience with or interaction with the police, a lot of those things just didn't happen. And so that lack of activity is the single biggest factor. So that's what I attribute most of it to.
We're talking with Corrigan O'Donohue. He's the chief of police for the fine city of Royal Oak. You've been a member of the Royal Oak Police Department for a long time now. I think when I met you, you may have been detective, lieutenant. I forget. It's been eons ago. But with that, though, how has policing changed over just the last 10 years, 20 years?
Well, like I said, I'm coming up on my 29th year. So it's changed a lot. And, you hear a lot this year about police reform. And I'm here to tell you, we've been reforming ourselves for the 29 years I've been in the job. The Royal Oak Police Department, we are staffed with the best men and women in the business, and the kind of mindset is a little bit different, where when I started, it was very militaristic, very enforcement heavy, and the men and women getting into law enforcement now, and the way we do our job now, is much more focused on, we do enforcement, of course, but much more focused on, hey, let's help people. Let's be, sometimes it's not always the enforcement end that you want to focus on. It's what can we do to make our community better? And, we tell our officers, every day you get an opportunity to make a really significant and positive impact in someone's life. Every single day. It's the only job that you really have that. Never miss those opportunities.
And we know within every department there are those bad eggs. With every industry, we know there were bad reporters. We know there are bad doctors. We know there are bad, postal workers. And one thing I have found through the years, it is typically other officers that would be the ones that would come to you as a reporter to alert, to try to address that issue. But now that we are hearing so much about reform, is it getting harder for you to be able to recruit quality people and diverse people as well?
Yes. There's just less people interested in going into law enforcement right now. we've been very lucky within Royal Oak. We're fully staffed currently. We've got the caliber of officer that's coming in to this job that we've got in Royal Oak right now is better than when I started. I'm not just saying that. You might think, oh, he's the chief. Of course, he's going to say that. But I'm telling you, we've got the best men and women in the business in the Royal Oak Police Department. But the pool of applicants is very, very shallow. There's just a lot of people unwilling to go into this line of work, and that's been a challenge for us. So, it's one of the many challenges we're trying to overcome and deal with. And one of my jobs is to convince people that, this is still a great job. It's a very honorable profession. We enjoy tremendous community support. But also you said something about like the bad eggs, and, you're required to do this job the right way, and I'm not going to make excuse for bad behavior, no matter who it is. And if it's a police officer engaged in bad behavior, that's part of my job is to deal with that, effectively. And, it does happen. It happens much more infrequently than it used to. I can promise you that.
Well, the one thing that all of us are subject to, the camera. Every single person out there has a cell phone camera, and people are shooting video, and you have to know and understand that every single day, whatever you're doing, you could be caught on video cameras. But we also know the camera doesn't always tell the full story. When it comes to police relations, I know there was an incident, I believe was it last year, with an African-American male who was someone, called in to say that they felt like it was suspicious activity, and how your department handled it. I thought you guys did a good job, but there is still that learning curve, those first few hours, those first few days, which can make it hard because of social media and video that's out there.
Well, I would tell you, it does make it difficult. We have no problem with the camera. I have a big problem with edited footage. And
yes.
That's, that incident started with somebody providing a narrative while they were live streaming it that wasn't necessarily accurate. But that's a perception that moves out on social media. So, from a police department, we were able to react very quickly in immediately releasing the 911 call, immediately addressing the police officers, and finding out exactly what happened. We released all the video, and anyone who took the time to look at all of that had a much different perspective than maybe their initial view. And I would say that's our challenge. Is there's an initial, people want to get that initial story out, of that initial footage out, and it really doesn't take a lot of time, but taking the time to, okay, what actually happened? Let me look at this objectively. I quite frankly, with no offense, I don't think the media does a great job of that, because we've been willing, to speak to the media, to release all that stuff. But obviously the media can't show 40 minutes of video as part of their clip. They've got to summarize it. So that's kind of the challenge. But pointing out that, that information is on our website, available to anybody who wants to look at it.
So the good thing, spring is in the air. Hope is in the air. Vaccines are flowing right now. Royal Oak is always a popular destination for the summertime. How has it been going for you and members of your team right now? Mask mandates, any issues, or people really starting to comply? Because we're a year into this now.
We're a year into it. It's the challenges. I think the ebb and flow of things, where things are open, they're not open. Although we're anxious to get Royal Oak back to what it was, hopefully we're on the tail end of this thing, and we'll be there soon. You have a couple of issues here and there, and we try to address them as effectively as we can. But, we had St. Patrick's Day in Royal Oak used to be a big thing. and it was last week, and this year really wasn't what it used to be. I think most people understand and are making this, informed and common sense decisions for themselves. So, although we saw a little bit of uptick in activity, it wasn't nearly what we've had in previous years.
I may or may not have participated in a few St. Patrick's Day bar pub crawls throughout St. Patrick's Day there before. Hey, Chief, before we let you go, what is your budget looking like right now? Are you guys sitting pretty nice, or are you based on sales tax and revenues from the downtown area, or are you based on the incomes of the housing? Because housing is crazy right now.
Housing is crazy, and Royal Oaks, but you're going to get into numbers, and not my strength, but right now I think we're okay. Some of our revenue funds aren't really what they used to be. Obviously, the parking fund in Royal Oak is a kind of a major fund. We haven't had people coming down the way they used to, so there's some shortages there. I think generally cities lag about a year or two behind these kind of down cycles. So we don't really know where we're going to end up in the end. But if we got time, we're starting a new parking project, or potentially starting a new parking project. If we got time, I'd like to discuss it a little bit.
Absolutely. Is it going to help me avoid tickets?
100%. And, people think, parking meters, who cares? But it is actually pretty exciting if you can get excited about parking meters. We're looking at a new system, and we're in the process of vetting it, but it's showing a lot of potential where we could take all our surface lots and street meter parking. It'll do a really cool system. It's called the MPS system, where it gives you a lot of opportunities to pay the parking meters. You can pull up, and then when you leave, pay whatever you stayed for. You can pay, and then if you stay over, you can shore up that meter. Or a real cool feature is through their website, you can set up like an account. So you pull up, you don't have to do anything. It automatically takes just the amount of time you were there at the meter. We found out that somewhere around 40 to 45% of the people actually pay the meters. Most people don't pay the meters, and so we want to make it really, really easy for people to do that. We want them to have a positive experience, but we also know that if we don't charge for the meters, the only way to have it, you can have available parking or you can have free parking, but you can't have both. And we want to make sure parking's available. We did a really neat community engagement within Royal Oak. We had a great participation amongst our community, and when people really understood the system, we found they were really, really overwhelmingly enthusiastic about it. So we're pretty excited. We're hoping to have something finished for the commission and ultimately make a decision on this within the next few weeks.
And so then if it gets the go-ahead, are you looking at, is this something that could be implemented within the next few months, or would it be another year or two?
Oh no, it'd be. We're shooting for summer. We've got a big new building opening up in Royal Oak soon. The Henry Ford Health System has a 5-story new office building, and that's really going to change our daytime traffic. So we're hoping to get it in before that is fully up and running. But like you said, if you've been to Farmers Market recently, you've seen our new building, the new City Hall building that Henry Ford Health building is going up. Will be up and running in the next few months, and then the exciting thing is we're going to have a downtown Central Park where our police department and City Hall were. So that's really going to be the jewel of the downtown, and we're really excited about that too.
Well, Chief, we so appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.